This is Rogers TV, Durham Region. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
It is April 9th, 2020, and this is your COVID-19 local update. I'm Deborah Hutchison. Joining us today, we have two guests. First up is Scugog Mayor Bobbie Drew. She joins us via video. Welcome, Mayor Drew.
Welcome.
How are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity to give messages to our constituents. So it's good to be here in my own home and ready to go. Ask away.
Okay, I guess let's start off with, there's been a little confusion over what is considered essential businesses and what must close. So let's go over that first.
Okay, well, I have a list. I've got a bunch of information in front of me, so just so that I don't leave anything out, I'm going to read the extent of the closures. It includes the municipal office, of course, and all public facilities, parks, and other recreation amenities like our boat launches. And the closure includes the cancellation of in-person open houses, statutory public meetings, council advisory committees, committee adjustment, all recreation programs and events, as well as extending the burn ban. And that is extensive burn ban, no recreational burns, no burns on farms, anything like that.
Now, why are you extending the burn ban? What's the idea behind that?
Well, the thing is, every time that our firefighters go out on a call, they put themselves at risk. If they're actually fighting a fire or dealing with an emergency, we can't guarantee that they're going to be 6 feet apart. And not only that, they're in the truck, they're right next to one another. So every time they're called out, we put them in harm's way. So
I was gonna ask you in regards to the essential businesses. We were talking earlier before this, and you said there was some confusion over the fact that greenhouses are getting ready to open, and they are considered an essential business. Why is that?
I would presume it's because they're an agricultural industry. They have been, preparing for months for this, and they are an agricultural business. And so, as long as they take the precautions that are necessary, and they are, they're able to open and serve the public.
And most of I would say, a great deal of their business is done between now and the end of June, correct? I mean, this is make or break time for them.
Yes, absolutely. I would say probably between now and say the end of June, as you said, I probably constitute about 80% or so of their business, their income for the year. So this is imperative for them.
One of the another release that went out from the municipality of Scugog was also about boats. You mentioned the boat launches are closed, and you are giving residents with boats permission to store their boats in their driveways for the time being, correct?
Yes, that's right. Our current bylaw does not allow recreational vehicles, big vehicles and boats and so on in driveways. If you've got a side yard or a backyard, you can put them there. But our current bylaw says that. Now, we've lifted that so that you are allowed, as people get their boats and their recreational vehicles out of storage, they need somewhere to put them. And right now, they can't put their boats to take them to the boat launch. So we're allowing them to put them in their driveways.
Let's talk about how town business continues. The wheel continues to turn, albeit a little differently. How are you making that work with the restrictions and people working at home, and I guess a lot of teleconferencing?
Yes, certainly a lot of teleconferencing. I've been working from home for, I guess, close to 3 weeks now, and it's working out quite fine. We have meetings like we're doing right now. I have been in the office a few times, usually after hours or just very briefly. We've had teleconferences with council, and certainly teleconferences with the emergency management team that we meet regularly now that we had declared a state of emergency.
This state of emergency, what is the reason behind it, and what does it allow you to do?
Well, first of all, we on March the 17th, we had a motion to enable the CAO and myself, gave us extra powers to deal with emerging business that had to be attended to very quickly. That was the first step, and the second step was to officially declare state of emergency for Scugog, and that put us in line with the other municipalities and the region. We've all 8 municipalities have now declared a state of emergency, and it puts us in line with the directives from the province as well. So it allows us to deal with business very quickly. And it also emphasizes the importance of adhering to the rules for our community.
Now, you talk about adhering to the rules. We've heard stories from other communities, frustration growing in people who do not follow the rules of social distancing, who continue to go to grocery stores. The whole family goes to grocery stores. Some think the rules don't apply to them. Are you having that same frustration up in your community?
For the most part, people are adhering to the rules. We have in the past maybe have instances of people gathering in groups, and certainly at the boat launch, which I think caused the whole province to shut down that. But for the most part, people are adhering to the rules. People are going to the grocery stores one at a time, not the whole family, and getting what they need and get in and get out. And we're finding that people are adhering to that. So, no, we're doing pretty good here. There's still some people that maybe are not in the loop, and our bylaw officers and the police are issuing warnings, and people generally then understand and they're okay. So they're just maybe not in the loop. But we have to get that message out, and that's why it's great to have these opportunities to speak to our public. So thank you again.
Well, it is our pleasure. We'd love to have you back on a regular basis throughout this and going forward as well. When you talk about the educational component of that the bylaw officers and police are going out and educating the public, do you foresee a time moving forward when you're going to have to bring the hammer down and the time for education is over? People should know, and those hefty fines are going to be handed out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're getting close to that point, if not already there. Certainly, if people are repeat offenders, they definitely deserve to be fined for this. We've got to take this seriously. Lives are at risk. And so, if you come across incidences where people are gathering, you need to report it because it's really not snitching. It's getting the message out there. You, by reporting, you could be saving a life.
But there are a great number of people that are getting it. Communities are coming together. Some stories you can share perhaps of how the community has, come together to help others?
It's really warmed my heart the way this community has come together. The Hospital Foundation has got signs out. I got one on my lawn, and it's we're strong. We're together. We're all in this together and supporting our frontline, our people. But we've got people out there making masks. We got groups that are making masks for the general public and for our frontline workers. We've got Operation Scugog. People are donating food and money to Operation Scugog because it's tough times for individuals who may be out of work. And so they're donating to Operation Scugog, and our great volunteers there are very, very busy. As a matter of fact, Wednesday afternoons, if you are able and can contribute, they have at the east side of the Victory Church. There's a doorway there. You can drop off food or knock on the door and give a donation. That seems to be going very well. And there's a lot of volunteers. There's people doing grocery shopping for people, dropping off, making calls to their neighbors and to people who are vulnerable, people who are really truly shut in and totally isolated. And so we've got our church groups are out there and different organizations are out there making those connections. So it really is heartwarming what is happening in our community.
The businesses, though, of course, are being hard hit everywhere, as is everyone. Loss of employment. The businesses are really struggling. What are you hearing from the businesses in your community? Well, the businesses that have closed, some of them are being very innovative. They are doing, you could drop off at the curb, they'll deliver, and so on and so forth. They've adapted very well. But it is hard hitting for a lot of our businesses. And so we are encouraging our public, as you are able, to please support our restaurants. Our grocery stores, of course, are open. We're asking people to be patient because supplies are low, but they're there. But people do hoard sometimes. So the wait lists are long. But please be patient and please support our local businesses as you are able. Supporting local businesses, is there a concern perhaps that quite a number of these won't come back when this is all said and done? Well, I suppose, that possibility is very real. And that's why, we need to now support them as we're able and as they are able. And certainly when all this is over, we need to shop locally and support our businesses. They've supported us over the years with our sports teams, with our galas, with our fundraising events, and now it's time to support them. So I'm urging everyone to keep that in mind. When you look at the numbers that the Durham Region Health Department releases daily, they now break it down by municipality. Scugog, a lot less than some of the other communities. In fact, the northern communities, their numbers are so much lower. Do you think that gives some a false sense of security? Or is it a real reason to go, whew? Yeah, well, we're very grateful that we have so few that are affected at this point. But now is not the time to let up. We still need to be very vigilant about self-isolation and doing your shopping once a week, once every 2 weeks. Just get the essentials, get in and get out. We're at a very crucial time. If we want to lower that curve, we need to be vigilant and be very, very careful about sanitizing, washing your hands, keeping distance, all of those things that will help keep us and our friends and neighbors and those that are vulnerable safe. Okay. Scugog Mayor Bobbie Drew, we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your really rather hectic schedule these days to spend some time with us and speak with us. Stay with us, everyone. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we are in conversation with Pickering Uxbridge MP Jennifer O'Connell.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Mason, and I love to garden and to share gardening advice with other folks who'd like to learn more about gardening. And I invite you to join Jeff and I each week as we take you through the garden season in our own garden. If you have questions that are worrying you and you'd like advice, please feel free to send them to the website, and we'll answer them on Let's Get Growing only on Rogers TV.
And welcome back to your COVID-19 update. I am Deborah Hutchison, and it is April the 9th, 2020. Our thanks to our guest in the first segment, Scugog Mayor Bobbie Drew. Up next, we are joined by MP for Pickering Uxbridge, Jennifer O'Connell. Jennifer, today the most recent unemployment numbers were released. Not a pretty picture. Let's jump right into it. Was it shock or pretty much what you expected?
Given the situation, I think we've been fully expecting, not good news in this area. But frankly, the focus has really been on ensuring that Canadians are safe and healthy. And we're trying to put in measures, anticipating that when life can get back to normal, how to restart the economy after that. So not entirely surprised. And that's part of why our measures have been what they are, because we're anticipating this, and this is what unfortunately has to happen to contain the health crisis that we're actually dealing with.
I have to ask you, when we talk about, safety is the number one priority, no doubt about it. Did the government move fast enough on closing the borders with the U.S. and bringing people home? Should we have moved quicker?
I mean, I think hindsight's always something that we're going to have to look at in the sense of how did we respond. I know when we were still in Ottawa, we were having these conversations. I think it's fair to say, obviously, we were paying very close attention to what was happening originally with the outbreak in Wuhan and then in other European countries. And we were fully anticipating that this was going to come here, and there were plans in place. The question is always, should we have closed the border with the U.S. earlier, and those different measures. And I think at the time we were listening to the public health officials and the experts following the science. And so again, I think when all of this is over, we're going to go back and look at any lessons learned. The difficulty with the U.S. is there's so much travel and goods exchanged across that border every single day that it's really, it's a question of closing the border, yes, to contain the health situation, but you also don't want to do it in a case where then you're also shutting off from being able to get the goods and the people that you need to help with the crisis. So that's the balance. And like I said, I think we're going to look back and see if there were things we could have done differently, but there is no doubt we had been planning for this long before kind of the outbreak really started to peak here.
I have to ask you about Trump's move to stop the shipment of N95 masks coming to Canada and stepping in and telling 3M that they couldn't. Eventually, there was negotiations and it was let through. What was your reaction when you heard that news?
I mean, obviously quite disappointed to hear, I guess, the U.S. Forget how important the relationship is. And the Prime Minister said every day that, goods and services travel both ways in both directions. And I think it was disappointing whenever you hear that maybe in the U.S. they kind of forget that relationship. But I was happy that eventually our team kind of went into action and reminded the U.S. of the relationship does go both ways. And I will say that 3M understood that right away and realized that this is a health crisis and a global health crisis, and shutting borders to getting people the supplies they need just means more people are going to die. And,
well, I mean, considering, am I incorrect in saying what I had heard was that 3M relied on some of the parts to make those N95 masks they came from Canada that we shipped down there?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's kind of the point of how it's not so simple, our border, and they needed to understand the relationship does go both ways.
Let's also talk about a new Ipsos poll out suggesting that Canadians overwhelmingly support stronger measures to fight COVID-19, even at the cost of personal liberty. Your reaction to that?
I mean, I'm happy to see Canadians are taking this more seriously, to be quite honest. I think early days, we were all seeing the images of Canadians not. I'm glad to see that there is that seriousness, that willingness to take more measures if need be. I think we are, as a government, trying to avoid that, to be very honest, because those types of measures are incredibly difficult and going to be very painful for many people. And I think we want to go down that road if we absolutely have to. But as long as people are physical distancing, staying home, doing the right things, then we really can maintain kind of the intrusion that we have now. And I think if we start to see those numbers spiking, if we start to see in the warmer months people no longer taking these measures, then yeah, the government's going to act. But I think I think right now we've been going in the right direction. We need people to keep doing so.
All right, this week, an important week for those who find themselves out of work due to COVID-19. The Canadian Emergency Response Benefit came into being and people could finally apply online. How has it been working?
Yeah, so I think the numbers I saw yesterday, so they could be even higher today, but I think something like 4.5 million people have actually applied, whether it's EI or the CRB, through Service Canada or CRA. And it's been going relatively well in the sense of I'm hearing that it's very user-friendly. Thank God it hasn't crashed.
Right.
The systems were being designed, obviously anticipating a huge uptake. And so we've converted a lot of our staff, our public service, for example, Service Canada, transitioning over to help with CRA. So we've been really doing a lot to get the staffing levels up. And I've even heard that people have actually received funds already. So I'm really, really thankful for the public servants who have been working to implement this, because the money is getting out the door and people really need it. So far we're thrilled, but we know there's going to be more work to do, and we know that this is just the first step.
So I have a question for you, actually, that came from a viewer that knew that we were going to be interviewing you, and in regards to the CERB. Their question is it taxable income? Do they have to report this on their income tax return? Do you know?
I don't believe it's taxable. It hasn't been in any of our kind of notes that have come out. So I'm not 100%, but it would be treated in the next tax season. I think we're going to have to look at the longer measures, to be quite honest. I don't think all of those details are even sorted, mainly because the idea, and the Prime Minister said this yesterday, the programs are meant to get out as quickly as possible, and we recognize they're not all going to be perfect.
Right.
And so some of these details in terms of how it's going to be handled in future taxation years, those details are still going to be forthcoming, but I believe it will be, I believe there will be measures put in place to really reduce any impacts.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the other things that you have been doing to, I guess, lessen the burden of COVID-19. Seniors specifically, let's talk about how you're helping them.
Yeah, so I think some of the measures that came out this week were in regards to some of our most vulnerable seniors. And so what we're hearing and what we're seeing on the ground are seniors who, they really can't or shouldn't be leaving their house because they might be vulnerable in terms of the health situation. And so they're relying on a lot of community supports for people going to get groceries or their medications and things like that. And we've seen a huge stress on kind of our systems there. So there was money invested in United Way Canada to help them support the local needs. help be able to serve seniors. There's other measures that we've done, in terms of some of the most vulnerable seniors would receive GST supplements, and we've upped those. So some of, again, the most vulnerable seniors would see more money flowing directly to them, and including seniors then who are very worried about their retirement savings and seeing the stock market. So we've changed the RIFs to allow for 25% in 2020. So withdrawals. So it's just kind of trying to keep in mind the volatile market that we're dealing with. So those are just a few of the measures, but we hear from more and more seniors. I know I certainly do, in terms of additional support. So I think it's something the government is looking very closely at. Our programs have been designed to really, it's kind of a triage situation, the most vulnerable people who have lost all their income. And then you're going to start to see the supports for, people who maybe have a little bit of income, or seniors who are maybe not at the most vulnerable, but need some extra help. And so that's where we're going to start looking at programs next.
Okay, income tax returns, you have extended the deadline, thank goodness.
Yes, to June 1st. And
Right.
if you're owing any money, then the payment would be extended to August 31st.
Do you see that extending any further, depending upon how this all plays out?
I mean, it's quite possible. I think at the time that was announced, that was seen as very far off. But now, as we see the data coming in and as we're seeing kind of projections, it's quite possible that we'll have to relook at that.
Okay, we have just under a minute left. I just want to throw this over to you. Your main message to residents who are understandably worried, but are beginning to panic. What do you say to them?
Reach out to our office, or if you don't live in my riding, reach out to your MP's office, because we do have a number of supports, and we recognize, again, not all of them are perfect, but the government's been very reactive. We have calls every single day, including on the weekends, and we're feeding this information into them. We've seen changes as a result of this feedback, so don't be afraid to send it to us. We need to know how on the ground it's working in order to make these changes.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us, and our thanks also to Scugog Mayor Bobbie Drew. Until next time, I'm Deborah Hutchison. Stay safe, everyone, and stay home.